Welcome to the Global War Watch Network. Today we're looking at a really critical moment for European security. After Russian drones breached Polish airspace just over a week ago, Warsaw is turning to Ukraine, really the world's most battle-tested drone power for help.
That's right.
And the big question is, could this partnership fundamentally reshape NATO's defense strategy?
It's a major development.
Our focus today is to really understand the details of this new defense memorandum signed between Poland and Ukraine. We want to see how, specifically, a full NATO member is leaning on a non-NATO partner using their wartime expertise to shore up defenses against this growing threat from uncrewed systems.
It really is quite a role reversal, isn't it? Driven by, pure necessity. The fact that Russian drones could actually get into the airspace of a NATO country like Poland,
Yeah.
that really exposed a critical gap. A gap in the alliance's ability to counter this newer generation of asymmetric warfare.
So NATO's traditional focus maybe wasn't quite ready for this.
Exactly. Defenses have historically centered on manned aircraft, big missile systems. They just weren't optimized for these smaller, faster evolving, uncrewed aerial systems, UAS.
Okay, so what specific gaps did that initial breach really highlight? Because as you said, this isn't a one-off. The threat seems persistent.
Well, the immediate response involved NATO fighter jets,
Yeah.
right? Scrambling to shoot them down.
Right, the kinetic option.
Which is incredibly expensive and, frankly, often slow and risky when you're talking about small, relatively cheap drones. It showed a lack of integrated, really fast reaction drone ID and neutralization tech right there at the border.
And that threat level hasn't dropped off. Poland's Interior Minister, Marcin Kierwiński, he confirmed just recently, I think it was Thursday night, increased activity of Belarusian and Russian drones trying to cross over. None got through that specific night, but the border's still closed. That tells you something about the ongoing pressure.
And that sustained pressure, that's precisely why Poland moved so quickly. They realized the operational know-how they needed wasn't sitting in Brussels or D.C.
No.
It was being generated in real time on the battlefields in and around Kyiv. So that led directly to the Polish defense minister, Władysław Kozyniak-Kamysz, actually traveling to Kyiv.
Right, to meet his counterpart.
Yes, to sign this high-level memorandum with Ukrainian defense minister Denis Shmyhal.
And Shmyhal put it quite starkly, didn't he? He said this moves their security cooperation to a new level in response to Russian terror, which threatens Ukraine and other European countries.
That framing is important. It's not just aid, it's mutual defense against a perceived common threat.
Absolutely. It feels like they've moved past just words into, concrete military integration.
Yes, and quite rapidly.
Okay, so let's unpack those specifics then.
Yeah.
What exactly is in this memorandum? The core seems to be this joint working group, specifically on uncrewed systems. What's their priority?
Right. This working group is where the rubber meets the road for knowledge transfer. It's designed to tackle both the tech and the tactics. They'll be jointly testing new ways to intercept drones. That means figuring out the best mix, when to shoot them down, when to jam them electronically, and crucially, exchanging that military experience. Ukraine is basically running a nonstop live-fire R&D lab every single day.
That distinction you made, kinetic versus non-kinetic, shooting versus jamming, that seems really key. We saw reports Ukraine's Air Force claimed they recently shot down or jammed 48 out of 75 Russian drones in one night.
Yeah, that ratio is telling.
What can Poland really learn from that kind of success rate? It suggests a pretty sophisticated approach.
Poland needs to learn how to effectively integrate the non-kinetic side. Jamming is often cheaper, it's faster, and importantly, it reduces the risk of collateral damage from falling debris.
Okay.
But doing that effectively means understanding Russian drone tactics, their frequencies, how they might try to avoid jamming, all things Ukraine has learned the hard way through constant combat. That's the knowledge the working group aims to transfer directly to NATO's front line.
And it goes beyond just immediate tactics, doesn't it? The memo mentions joint military training programs and even joint manufacturing projects. That sounds less like a quick fix and more like a long-term strategic alignment.
That manufacturing piece is fascinating and potentially challenging. They explicitly state a goal of greater compatibility between the Ukrainian and Polish armed forces.
Right, compatibility. What does that actually mean in practice for Poland, a NATO member?
Well, it means trying to mesh Ukraine's rapidly developed, often ad hoc wartime tech with NATO's very established, sometimes slow-moving standardization requirements. STENEGs, they're called.
That sounds difficult.
It's a huge functional hurdle, but the urgency of the threat seems to be forcing their hand, pushing them to try and bridge that gap between battlefield innovation and alliance bureaucracy.
So battlefield necessity is driving the train here.
Yeah.
Okay, if Poland is focused on defense right now, drawing on Ukraine's experience, we should probably talk about where that experience comes from, Ukraine's own offensive drone capabilities. How are they managing these long-range strikes?
That offensive edge is absolutely crucial context. Ukraine is using drones to try and level the playing field, to counter the sheer asymmetry in numbers. You remember Putin claimed Russia has, over 700,000 troops on the front line?
Right, a huge disparity.
Yeah, so drones, especially these long-range ones, act as a vital force multiplier for Ukraine.
And these allow them to hit targets deep inside Russia, striking at the economic engines funding the war. The attack on the Neftekhim-Selavat oil refinery, owned by Gazprom, way out in Bashkortostan, that was a prime example.
That specific strike was, frankly, staggering. The distance involved, over 1,000 kilometers, that's about 600 miles from Ukrainian-controlled territory.
Wow.
This wasn't just lobbing something over the border. This hit a major facility deep inside Russia's industrial heartland. To put in perspective for, European listeners, that's like launching something from London and hitting Berlin. The reach has expanded dramatically.
And Ukraine Security Service, the SBU, confirmed they were behind it. They hit the main refining unit, caused a significant fire.
So what's the actual impact on Moscow from strikes like these?
Well, strategically, it hits Russia's war revenue. They're the world's second biggest oil exporter, so disrupting refining capacity hurts. And reports suggest these sustained long-range attacks are having an effect.
Such as?
Such as contributing to actual fuel shortages at petrol stations within Russia recently. That creates economic pain, but also potential social friction for the Kremlin.
And all this is happening while tensions are already high right there on NATO's border.
Absolutely. Those drone incursions, the general tension, it's already prompted NATO to announce reinforcements, strengthening its defensive posture all along that eastern flank bordering Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine.
And at the same time, Moscow's been running those military exercises with Belarus, showcasing conventional and even nuclear capabilities.
Right, signaling their own strength.
Yeah.
So this Poland-Ukraine drone partnership fits directly into that complex, multi-layered security picture. It's a direct countermove. Now, while drones are clearly shaping things, we shouldn't forget the conventional fight is still raging. You mentioned Ukraine fighting back on the ground too, right? Particularly in Donetsk.
Yes, and that ground fighting is heavily intertwined with drone use. President Zelensky recently highlighted a counteroffensive there, claiming they retook about 160 square kilometers, 7 settlements, captured nearly 100 Russian soldiers.
And drones are key to that.
Crucial. They provide the intelligence, the targeting, the eyes in the sky that allow Ukrainian forces to maneuver effectively, especially when facing superior numbers. Drones enable those localized ground successes.
Meanwhile, Russia keeps hitting Ukraine's infrastructure rail, energy trying to disrupt supply lines, create hardship.
It's a persistent pattern, yes, designed to undermine logistics and potentially sow discontent.
Which just makes Poland's move to partner with Kyiv on immediate counter-drone tech seem even more, logical and urgent. So, when you step back and look at all this, what's the big takeaway? We have a NATO member, Poland, explicitly turning to a non-NATO nation, Ukraine, for cutting-edge, battle-proven technology and tactics to defend the alliance's own border. The speed of it, the reliance on innovation born from conflict, regardless of formal treaties, that feels incredibly significant for how security might evolve in Eastern Europe.
I think it signals a fundamental reality. The pace of technological change in warfare, especially with uncrewed systems, has now officially outrun the traditional, often slower processes of established security alliances. Innovation is happening faster on the battlefield than in the bureaucracy.
That's a really powerful final thought. Thank you for walking us through all that context and analysis today.
My pleasure.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in and for sending sources that help shape these discussions. We really hope you found this breakdown useful. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe to the Global War Watch Network. We'd also genuinely love to hear your perspective on this Poland-Ukraine partnership. Is it a game changer? Let us know in the comments section. And please join the conversation on our social media channels. All the links you need are right there in the description. Thanks for listening.